essay, your essay is not going to be emailed to me. It's going to be put up on Blackboard. But when you do write your essay, be orderly, be organized. So, for example, if you're writing that Chester Arthur was the greatest president in the history of the United States, that's fine. Or Fillmore, or whoever. When you give in your first paragraph, you'll have a brief outline, right, of your paper, and then you'll go through your reasons in the paper. When you're going over reason number one, stick to reason number one. Don't get things mixed up, right? For example, if Chester Arthur was the greatest American president, and you have as reason number one the fact that the economy was doing great under Arthur's leadership, then when you're talking about the economy in your paper, stick to that. Don't mix up your reasons, right? So write your first reason, explain it, expand on it, and then you're done with it. Then move on to the second reason. When you're going over your second reason, don't mention your third reason. Don't mention your first reason. Right? Keep your reasons separate. Otherwise, the reader's going back and forth, and it's very confusing. Right? So, to give it an example, your paper is 8 pages long. Maybe you'll go over your first reason on pages 1 and 2.
$82
Maybe you'll go over your second reason on pages 3, 4, and 5. And maybe you'll go over your third reason on the remaining pages, right? But don't mix them up. Okay? Okay, we got that out of the way. Okay, there was a homework assignment, right? Egon, do you want to do it? There was a homework assignment. I guess you can put it in the chat section. We'll give her a minute. Okay, so we're waiting for Egon here, right? Take your time. There's no rush. Let's see what she wrote. I love school. Is the third line there supposed to be the conclusion? No, right? Is the third line supposed to be the conclusion there? who did it? Who? It's okay if you don't get it, Egon. Who did get it, and who can do it? What was line 1? Anyone?
So, Professor, I did it, but I'm not sure if I did it 100% correct, so I'm just going to give it a shot, because that's fine.
Okay, so Daniela, what was line 1? Daniela, help me out. I'll put it on the board. What was line 1?
I sent it on the chat. That's what I did. I don't know if it's 100% correct.
Okay. The first thing you wrote is not a sentence, right? If people with blue eyes are beautiful, that's not a sentence. Who remembers the symbolized argument from last time? Megan has it. Yeah, I think that's right. So, yeah, and Daniela, I'm sorry to pick on you, but that worries me, right? When I see that worries.
Yeah, I sent it uncompleted. Sorry, that was my fault.
Oh, it's okay. So let's see. I think Megan has it right. And if I pick on you or whatever, that means I'm just trying to do my job. It goes for all of you. Okay. Therefore, right. Okay, so is that what we have? Megan, is that right?
Yes, the only thing is that I didn't put the 3 dots for therefore for James.
That's okay. Okay, so this is an argument, right? And it might say, line 1, the boys are healthy, right? Line 2, if Hillary's happy, then Jimmy's happy. Line 3, Hillary's happy. Therefore, Jimmy's happy and the boys are healthy. It could mean whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It's just an exercise. Line 1 could very well say, brown is my favorite color. For furniture, it is. Right? Brown is my favorite color. Notice that line 1 doesn't have an arrow. So you don't say if anything. Line 1 is just be. It's an affirmation. There's no arrow. There's no if and then. So line 1 could very well be brown is my favorite color. Line 2 could be if I say hi, then I am jolly. Line 3, I say hi. Therefore, I am jolly and brown is my favorite color. You could plug in something else. Number 1, Billy is a good guy. Line 2, if Henry's there, then if Henry's at the party, then Jill is at the party. Line 3, Henry's at the party. Therefore, Jill is at the party and Billy's a good guy. Don't forget that each letter here stands for a statement or a proposition, not a single term. Okay. So, how do we get to the conclusion? Well, if you look at line 2 and 3, you can get J from them. Line 2 says, if H, then J. Line 3 says H. What follows J? So you're right. Line 4 here, J. And you got it from 2 and 3 using modus ponens. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. And how can we get to the conclusion? Well, you get to the conclusion by joining 4 and 1 using ampersand. And that's how you do it. So does J and B follow from lines 1 through 3? Yes. J and B does follow from lines 1 through 3 because you can get a J from 2 and 3. Egon, line 2 with the H and J, start with if. If I like to study, then, not therefore, then. You're going to use the therefore for the 3 dots at the very end, Egon. For line 2, H then J. If H then J. Yeah. When you see the arrow, always say if first. IF. Excuse me. Yeah, so line 1, Egon wrote, I love school. Line 2, if I like to study, then I learn. 3, I like to study. I like to study, but 2 there. Therefore, I learn and I love school, yeah. This is an argument in which you have more than one form. You have modus ponens and ampersand in. Are there any questions? This is new to you. If you're a bit confused, it's normal. I go to the gym every day. If I lift weights, then I am strong. You missed premise, Rosemary. You're missing H. Line 3 should be H, Rosemary, and the conclusion should be J and B. Let's do another one. You're welcome. Let's do another one. And again, after the midterm, we'll apply this to something important. You'll see. P. So our first assumption here is P. It could mean Peter is greedy, Peter is fat, Paul is happy. Whatever you want. If G then T. If G then T. If God exists, then I'm in trouble. If God exists, then I'm in trouble. Oops. And G just says God exists. What's the matter, darling? Can't you see I'm trying to teach? Have you no respect? Okay. Really? So the question is, does T and P follow from line 1 through 3? Right? We need to get a T and a P together. We need to get a T and a P together, right? Can we do that? What are you doing? Darren! trying to work. Look what you did. They need so much attention. Oh, it's a she. Agamemnon's sleeping. Excuse me. So, the conclusion here is T and P. How can we get to T and P? Well, let's do one thing at a time. How can we get a T to begin with? Anyone? How can we get a T from lines 1 through 3?
You add a fourth line.
Yeah, you need a fourth line. Very good. These lines you add are called derived lines. Good going. Right. So, how can we get a T?
And then you put T next to the fourth premise.
Right, but where does it come from?
It comes from the second line.
From which lines?
Number 2.
1 and 2?
No, the second one. 2.
2 and what? No, Natalia. How can you get it from 1? There's nothing. No, Laura. No. You get it from these 2. Good, Gushan. Good, Natalia. Yeah, you get it from these 2. Excuse me. If G then T, G therefore T. Good, Megan. Right? If P then Q, P Q. That's modus ponens. If P then Q, P therefore Q. It'll also work with if G then T, G therefore T. If H then R, H then R. If L then M, L therefore M. So we get line 4, 2 and 3. Modus ponens. How do we get to the conclusion? One and 4, that's right, Denise. Which rule? And percentage. Good, Matthew. Excuse me. Actually, it's 4 and 1 because you mentioned the T first. Yeah, good, Jennifer. 4 and 1. And percent in. Yeah. It's a minor thing, Denise. Gabriela, I hang with my friends. If I play games and I have fun, I play games. I have fun. Good. Good, Gabriela. How many of you are beginning to understand this a bit? I'm not asking you who can master this right now. Who's understanding it somewhat? Denise is 1. Who else? Cynthia, Rosemary, Megan, Nicole, good. Isabel, 7. Who else? Good. Good, good. It's okay, Jessica. Okay, good. We'll do one more. So suppose I say, let's see.
Professor,
Yes.
real quick, can you see me, right?
No.
There we go.
I can see you.
Excuse me. For confirmation, it doesn't necessarily matter the specific letters. Like you can use P, Q, R, whatever. It doesn't matter, but the structure matters. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Uh, I love going to the beach. Go to the beach. Can I have fun? I go to the beach. Good, Egon. This one says, let's see, I got it. I used to work for a guy called David. He's very disorganized. So, number one, if David is in charge, we are in trouble. Number one, if David is in charge, then we are in trouble. Right? If David is in charge, we are in trouble. Line 2, I hate working here. I hate it. Line 3, David is in charge. Therefore, we are in trouble, and I hate working here. Once again, line 1, if David is in charge, then we are in trouble. Line 2, I hate working here. Line 3, David's in charge. Therefore, we are in trouble. And I hate working here. Okay, so how do I get Gabriel? You need line 4, T from 1 and 3. Good. Yeah, how do I get from lines 1 through 3 to the conclusion? Gabriela is right. You can get a T from 1 and 3. Using modus ponens, right? Laura, the fourth premise is added when you try to prove that the conclusion follows. Okay, Laura? Yeah. So you might see 3 premises and the conclusion. If you want to prove that the conclusion will follow, that's when you start adding. How do I get to the conclusion T and H? From which 2 lines can I get a T and an H? 4 and 2 ampersand. Is it easy? Is this easy? It's easy because I'm teaching it. Let's see. Modesty aside. Yeah, from 4 and 2, right? Ampersand in. Oops. Since the conclusion T and H follows from 1 through 3, using valid rules, modus ponens, ampersand in, then the argument is valid. Whatever the hell it was about, David hating to work here, we're in trouble, whatever. The argument is valid. Excuse me. do one more before we go back to ethics. And once again, we ask, how do I get to the conclusion from the premise? No. If A then S, not S, what follows from 1 and 2?
Hello?
Laura, I think you're lost. What follows from 1 and 2?
Yes, what's up?
Anyone?
I'm in class right now. What are you gonna food prep?
What? I already got 3
Oh, the
assumptions.
one that I showed you?
I didn't ask you which form are we going to use, Matthew. I asked what follows.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no, Megan.
Alright, bye.
No, Megan. No. Yes, Matthew. Good. Not A. Good. What happened? Not A follows from 1 and 2. Modus tollens. Right, Boucher. If P then Q, not Q, not P. Well, if A then S, not S, not A. Same thing. If L then M, not L. If V then D, not D, not V. So, how do we get the conclusion? Not A and M? I sleep at night. You're not following it, Natalia. The first sentence is a conditional. You wrote an affirmation. How do I get the conclusion? Not A and M. No. 4 and 3. Good, Matthew. 4 and Tanisha. 4 and 3, Amberson. Are there any questions? Read the posts. Correct my statements. Yeah, I do correct people's statements. What do you mean correct my statements? That's what I did. I told you line 1 doesn't track. Well, line 1 has to be a conditional. I have to say if something, then something else. That's how it. See the arrow? You just wrote, I sleep at night. the if and then. Think always for condition. Yeah, use an if and then. Whenever you see an arrow, you start the sentence with if and have the then in there somewhere in the middle. If I sleep, then you forgot that. So the then is okay. If I sleep, then I am happy. It is not the case that I am happy. Good. I want to cry. Cool. Good. I think that's right. Did Laura do it right? I think she did. If I sleep, then I am happy. Sleep. Yeah, I think that's right. Don't forget, Laura. That means it is not the case that. The squiggly line. It is not the case that. But Laura, don't just go through the reasons without. You also have to write this, Laura. You also have to write this. I'm circling it. We need to know why you're saying what you're saying. So if you write, if I sleep, then I am happy, say it's an assumption. If you say it is not the case that I'm happy, say it's an assumption. If you write, I want to cry, say it's an assumption.
I thought you were the one that hung
line
up.
4, you have to say how you got it. Or you have to say, I got it from one end.
Yes.
Don't just go through those
okay.
statements. Okay, don't just go through the statements to the left. Also give your reasons to the right. If you don't, we don't know. We don't know whether you're just getting lucky or not.
Hello.
Should I do one more, or should we go back to ethics? It's up to you. One more? Okay. It is not the case that. Egon, it is not the case that. For example, it is not the case that it rains. It is not the case that it is snowing. It is not the case that I am sad. It is not the case that the bank got robbed. Okay, do one more. One second. Gotta hear that. Let's see. Is that good? Okay, good. Here's another one. If I'm gonna have more responsibility. That's good, Gabriela. That's good. That's perfect. What about this one? If F then W, number 2, G. Number 3, it is not the case that W. Therefore, G, and it is not the case that F. not F from 1 and 3. Which rule, though? You're right, making them as incomplete. Motor stolen. Good. Oops. You know, my friends don't call ever. I start teaching and the phone starts going crazy. Yeah, if F then W, not W, 1 and 3, right? Motor stolen.
Nosotros
Okay.
tenemos
And how do
jengibre.
we get to the conclusion?
Tenemos jengibre.
G and not F, 2 and 4. Perfecto. Denise. By the way, if you like this, you'll have a job. If you like this, if you like math, you'll have a job. Guaranteed, because nobody likes it. Very few people like it. Very few people like it. If you like it, you're very lucky. If I cry, then I'm sad. I get depressed. It's not the case that I'm sad. It's the case that I cry. Therefore, I get depressed. And it is not the case. Perfecto, Gabriela. Perfecto. Okay, let's go back to something else. Oh, and Bouchon, I'm still waiting for your outline, okay? You had good reasons, but they weren't. You could do a little better.
Roger that. Working on it.
Take your time. Yeah, but don't forget, you need to write why you're writing what you're writing at that. You have the right assumption, or you have to write what's to the right. You have to justify your statements. Okay, Kaylin. Where am I? Okay, so yeah, let's go back to the Greeks. And just a little review here for you. I think so, Gabriela. I'm not sure. Check the syllabus. On the exam, you'll need to know what does. That's all in the syllabus, Gabriela. Read the syllabus. For the exam, you'll need to know what Socrates asks Euthyphro. Now, halfway through the dialogue, don't forget that. Don't forget that Socrates tries to help Euthyphro. You'll recall that he suggests to Euthyphro he needs to refer to the proximate genus when defining something, and then he needs to give the specific difference when he defines something. So I might ask you about that on the exam. I might also ask you what is Euthyphro's fourth definition. But before we continue, are there any questions on Socrates, the Socratic method, or Euthyphro? I think that there's a post on all this stuff. So. Yeah. Okay, so as you know, I hope you can see Plato there. Plato's real name was Aristocles. Plato is his nickname. It means big head or broad. It could mean big head, broad head, or it could mean broad shouldered. It means something's big, right? Plato means something's big. His head or his shoulders are wide or something. I think big head sounds funny, so we'll just say it was big head. His real name was Aristocles, once again. And Plato, as you know, was following Socrates around, and he was influenced by the philosophers Parmenides, Pythagoras, and Heraclitus of Ephesus. Those three philosophers influenced Plato. Methodologically, he was influenced by Socrates. So he gets his method from Socrates. He uses the Socratic method in his plays. In his dialogues. But he gets his ideas from Parmenides, Heraclitus of Ephesus, and Pythagoras of Samos. And in a nutshell, I think I mentioned this last time, just to give you an idea. Plato believed that there are, aside from physical things, immaterial abstract things. Plato believed that there is a world of ideas, and there is a world of mathematical entities. These things are invisible, but they exist. In a nutshell, what is usually said is that Plato advances a two worlds theory. It's really, that's not exactly right, but it's, for now it's good. Plato advances a two worlds theory. There's the physical world and another world that lies beyond. The world that lies beyond is a perfect world, and it's eternal. It's not physical. It just contains ideas and mathematical entities. For example, the trapezoid. The trapezoid exists. All right? Who invented it? Nobody. It was always there. That geometrical figure exists. Right? The circle exists. Is it physical? No. Who invented it? Nobody. It was always there. It's eternal. Right? So when you think of the circle, you're not really inventing anything. You're just grasping something that was already there. The ideas of justice, of piety, of love, of courage, blah, blah. Those are also eternal ideas. And in English, we call them forms. In the Greek, it's eidos. And Plato founded the Academy in Athens. The Academy was the first institute of higher learning in the West, the first college. And one of his students was Aristotle. Now, Plato is very important, and Plato could very well be the most important philosopher who ever lived. It's difficult to tell whether it's Socrates or Plato or Aristotle or someone else. You know, once they get to a particular level, you're just in awe of them, right? And it's difficult to say this one is more important than the other, or this one's right and that one's wrong. It's not easy to say, to determine. But Plato could very well be the most important. Just because I'm not going to go into detail in this course doesn't mean that Plato is insignificant. Quite the contrary. I just don't have time. but I gave you an idea of what he was up to. You can also read my master's thesis on Plato, but half of it is in ancient Greek, so I don't think that might help. Anyways, Aristotle. Aristotle was Plato's student. So whereas Plato followed around Socrates, Aristotle is going to be Plato's student. Now, Aristotle was born in Macedonia. I think I told you this already. And Macedonia is a country that is to the north of Greece. It's right there. Just stone's throw away. But culturally, they're Greek, so we don't say Aristotle, the Macedonian folks. They're so similar, we just call them Greek, right? Aristotle is a Greek philosopher. He was born in Macedonia, not technically Greek. Yeah, I know, but culturally, ethnically, they're the same. Aristotle was born, I think, 383 or 384 BC. Let me see. I'm going to do this from memory. 384 BC. Aristotle was born 384 BC in Macedonia. And he is, that's 384 years before Christ or before the Common Era. He's practically born, Aristotle is practically born into royalty. Because his father is the king's doctor. The king was King Philip, king of Macedonia. And Aristotle's father was named Nicomachus, the king's doctor. Aristotle and Plato had a lot of money. Old money. There's a difference between those who have the money from a long time ago and those who just acquired it. Those who just acquired it are the nouveau riche, right? And they're looked down upon by the people who had money for a long time. The people who have money for a long time or come from families that had money for a long time typically look down on those who just made the money, right? Because the guy who just made his money doesn't know which utensils to use first, right? That kind of thing. That matters to those people. I don't know why. But anyway, that's the way it is. But of course, Plato and Aristotle, although they have money, they're not really too preoccupied with it. These are philosophers. But I'm just giving you some facts. According to Plato, the most important person who ever lived was Socrates, and Socrates didn't have any money. Even though they had money, they didn't value it. But I'm just giving you an idea of who these people were. Now, Aristotle, when he's 18 or 17 or so, or younger perhaps, I don't know, his uncle realized, because Aristotle's father died early on, raised by his uncle, Aristotle, and his uncle realized how prodigious, how talented, how intelligent, how amazing Aristotle was. So what did they do? They got him on the Greyhound bus up there in Macedonia, and he traveled all the way down to Athens. Why? To enroll in Plato's academy. And there he learned philosophy and other things, mathematics, everything under Plato. So that must have been 364 BC, 366 BC, when he enrolled in Plato's academy. In Plato's academy, Aristotle quickly becomes Plato's peer. He goes from being the student to being an equal. Now, let me ask you a question, my dear students, to give you a perspective of who this man was. How many of you would like to be number one in your field? Yeah, of course. Imagine being number one in your major, Nicole, right? You're number one in your major, in your area, in the world. Out of 6 billion people, it'll come easy to you. Right? Imagine being number one. At the very least, you'd have a nice, comfortable bed, right? Comfortable house. Out of 6 billion, the greatest architect in the world, or the greatest whatever. It's something we all want. What I'm going to tell you right now is very difficult for you and for me, for anyone, to really grasp, or comprehend. It doesn't really register. But it goes something like this. Aristotle was an authority in every important field. Okay? For at least 2,000 years. Think about that. Yeah. It's crazy. So, yeah, I would like to be number one, as the number one instructor in the world, right? Someone else wants to be the greatest architect in the world. Aristotle was an authority in every important field of study for thousands of years. Okay? But it's even more impressive. In most of these cases, he's also the founder of those fields. It's crazy. It's crazy. So, for example, when he's in Plato's Academy, he said, you know what, I'm going to do something today. And he founded something. He founded logic, right? So imagine that on your resume. Hey, I founded logic. That's incredible, right? He taught us what deductions are, inductions, validity, the P's and the Q's, all that stuff that I've been boring you with. He discovered. As a logician, he was excellent. And I think that we've made minor corrections. I think that I would say essentially, the logic he gave us is the logic we're still using. There are some corrections made by people like Whitehead, Frege, Russell. Right? Some things have been added, corrected, but 90% of it, 80% of it is just Aristotelian. As a logician, he wrote, it's okay, Daniel. As a logician, he wrote over 100 books, but only 27 or 30 survived. And some of these are just lecture notes, they're not really books. Now, in logic, he wrote a book called Prior Analytics. In Prior Analytics, which you can read today, it's not outdated, right? Everything he says in there is fine. It's still valid, so to speak. In the book Prior Analytics, Aristotle teaches philosophers how to reason, and people in general. That book is written for philosophers and people in general. And in this book, he says, it's very dry, but it's 300 pages of logic. P's, Q's, P's, Q's. That's what it is. Well, he didn't use P's and Q's, I guess. It's Greek letters. You know what I mean. He teaches you what deductions are, what inductions are. he comes very close to developing modal logic. He does give us a kind of modal logic as well. And in the book, he does say, by the way, he said, I'm coming up with this, This is the first time this has been done. So he knows he's founding logic. As he writes prior analytics, he tells us, by the way, this is the first time this is being done. He wrote another book called Posterior Analytics, and in this book, he teaches, it's also a work in logic, but its audience are scientists. Right? So in this book, he teaches scientists how to think, how to do science. There are other works in logic topics, sophistical refutation. On interpretation has some logic in it, and categories has some logic in it too. So he's doing really well in the academy. In the academy, Aristotle also does work in metaphysics. Metaphysics is the theory of being. So that branch of philosophy that is concerned with being. For example, if you ask yourself how many kinds of thing are there, you're asking yourself a metaphysical question. What's the meaning of being is a metaphysical question. What is there? What is there is a metaphysical question. Now you'll recall that Plato believed that there are essentially two worlds. There are essentially two worlds according to Plato. There's the physical world we live in, and its contents are revealed to us through sense perception. We see physical things. But then there's another world, according to Plato, the world of ideas and mathematical entities. And that world is disclosed to us or made available to us by means of the faculties of knowledge and intelligence. Well, Aristotle had a different metaphysical position. Aristotle doesn't agree with Plato. Aristotle believes there's just this one world. And if there are abstract things, which Aristotle believes, they are in this world. They're not in some other world. There isn't a division, a stark division between the abstract and the physical, according to Aristotle, although there is according to Plato. So already you can see that there's some disagreement. If you're a Christian and you believe in God, the kingdom of heaven, then perhaps Plato is going to be your guy. If you believe there is nothing beyond this world, right? And when you die, then Aristotle might be your guy. But again, Aristotle did believe abstract or immaterial things exist. They're just in or about the physical thing, right? For example, according to Aristotle, we have souls. Our souls are abstract, but they're not in some other world. They're in this world. Somehow, mysteriously, but somehow connected to our bodies. So that's one difference between Plato and Aristotle. Plato advances what's usually called a two worlds theory. Aristotle rejects it. Another difference is that Aristotle is a chauvinist, right? Aristotle does not agree with Plato. According to Plato, there could be a woman who has all the qualifications to govern, and so she should. According to Aristotle, it's impossible, right? Women are just inferior to men, period. And we get this from his book, The Politics, where he writes the relationship between a man and a woman is to be considered a relationship between superior to inferior. It's very clear where Aristotle stood on this. Aristotle also does work in aesthetics. Aesthetics is the theory of art or the theory of beauty. And Aristotle is the world's first art critic. He's the founder of aesthetics. I should have written. Sorry. He's the first art critic. In his book, The Poetics, he teaches you how to write a play. I had to write a play in college. I had no idea what to do. And then I remembered, oh yeah, Aristotle teaches people how to write plays in his book, The Poetics. So I bought the book. I followed the guidelines. The first act should be like this. The second act should be like that. The third act, whatever. I followed the guidelines and I did really well. I got an A. So, thanks to him. He does work in epistemology. Epistemology is the theory of knowledge. When you're asking what is knowledge, for example, you're doing epistemology. So he's the founder of logic. He's the founder of aesthetics. He's not the founder of metaphysics. The founder of metaphysics was Parmenides. And he's not the founder of epistemology either. The founder of epistemology might be Socrates. I don't know. Of course, he's also going to do work in political philosophy. And his famous book is called The Politics. And once again, as with Socrates and Plato, Aristotle is going to argue against democracy. But democracy is the tyranny of the masses. However, he does think that there are some good things about it. He's not as harsh a critic as Plato, but he is a critic of democracy too. Of the founding fathers of this country, Madison was the biggest critic of democracy. That's why they set up the Electoral College. What am I missing? The thing is, this guy's resume is so long. He does work in psychology too, yeah. There's a book called On the Soul. And of course, he does work in ethics, and that's what we will talk about in this course. His ethics, right? Now, a lot of my students believe that Aristotle and Plato were influential back then, right? Or in Europe, right? That's not true. The influence of Plato and Aristotle is global. It's global. As a matter of fact, the first Muslim philosopher, the founder of Arabic philosophy was Al-Kindi in Baghdad. And Al-Kindi says that the first philosopher is Aristotle. So Aristotle isn't just read in the West. Aristotle is read also by Muslims. Again, the founder of Arabic philosophy calls Aristotle the first teacher. These people are read in Japan and Australia, wherever. Many Muslim philosophers read Aristotle. As a matter of fact, we still have the Aristotle's texts and writings because the Muslims can preserve them. They were reading them in preserve. Not only Al-Kindi, Averroes, Avicenna, many of them. So Aristotle's doing great in the academy, and Plato is getting tired. He's going to retire. I've done my job, says Plato. Now, who's going to take command of the academy? Who's going to be the chairperson of the academy, right? And Aristotle thinks, clearly it's going to be me. I've been kicking ass here all this time, right? But because Aristotle and Plato, though they were friends, really good friends, because they disagreed on so many things, in particular in metaphysics, Plato did not give the keys to the academy, of the academy to Aristotle. The new chair of the academy was a guy called Speusippus. What a name, huh? I think he spelled it like that. Speusippus. A mathematician. So Aristotle says, okay, I've been here for 20 years. Speusippus gets the chair. I'm not too happy with this. Aristotle leaves Greece and goes to the island of Lesbos. Okay, put it here. Since he did not get the chair at the academy, Aristotle went to Lesbos. Lesbos is an island off of Asia Minor. Today it's called Turkey, right? It's an island right across, right next to Turkey. And that's where you get the word lesbian from lesbian. Because there was a poet on the island of Lesbos. Her name was Sappho. And she used to write about the beauty of women. She was homosexual. Since she was lesbian, people started using the word lesbian to mean homosexual woman. So now you know. Anyways, Aristotle married a lesbian, by the way, when he was there on the island of Lesbos. Anyways, on the island of Lesbos, Aristotle hangs around in a lagoon with his student Theophrastus. Lagoon. What do they do? What are Theophrastus and Aristotle doing out there on this lagoon? Today, by the way, the lagoon is called Aristotle's Lagoon. It's vast. You don't think it's a lagoon, you think you're in the middle of the ocean. Anyways, Aristotle and Theophrastus were out there in the lagoon. What were they doing? Cutting animals open. Armed with spears, they would cut open fish, turtles, examine the organs, and they would write down their findings. This organ does this other organ does that. And sometimes they would cut open the creatures while they were still alive. This is called vivisection. Don't do it. But they did it because they figured that, they figured that if you cut the turtle open or the eel or the fish or what have you, if you cut them open while they're still alive, you can get a better understanding of what the organs are doing or something. So they would study the insides of these animals and make these really detailed illustrations of the insides with notes, captions, right? Indicating the organs and what each organ does. And in so doing, Aristotle becomes the founder of biology. Because Aristotle is just as much a scientist as he was a philosopher. Oh wait, sorry, biology founder, I should write. They were out there for years, just terrorizing the animal community. Then he starts to organize the animal kingdom. How does he organize it? Well, in the same way that Socrates would have, or Plato would have. What is that? Well, it's a method of classification in which you have genera. That's the plural of genus, right? Genera subdivided into species. As he does this, he becomes the founder of zoology. Nobody has a CV like Aristotle. He's the founder of botany as well. And he's the founder of physics. He was lazy. He was very lazy. The loser. You know, when I read him, not only Aristotle, Plato too, it can be a little intimidating sometimes. Oh shit, this guy knew this thousands of years ago, and I didn't. You know. How did Plato and Aristotle become so successful? They turned off their cell phones. They said, "I'm going to turn this thing off. Just think." You have to turn off. Don't put it on silent. Turn the damn. Start to turn your cell phones off. I know what I'm telling you. Technology is not helping you. You know, it's not. The more technological advancements there are, the more difficulty I have with my students. The harder it is to teach because the student is not prepared. There were no cell phones, right? The students were prepared. They knew their grammar. The more technology we have, the worse off we are. Anyways, right. He also does work in astronomy. He's not the founder of astronomy, by the way. The founders of astronomy are in the founders of astronomy were the Mesopotamians between the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. Those are the founders. But Aristotle was an astronomer as well, and he's the first person we know of who advances an argument, the conclusion of which is that the Earth is a sphere. Pythagoras knew that, and Plato knew that the Earth was a sphere, but Aristotle gives us reasons. He also does work, and people today think it's flat, you know that. But anyways, he also does work in meteorology. He studied the clouds or something, I don't know. And there's much more. There's much more. Now, at one point, he's out there in on the island of Lesbos, terrorizing the animal community, and he gets a phone call from the king in Macedonia, back home, the city of Pella. King calls up Aristotle. Hey, Aristotle, put that turtle down. What the hell did it ever do to you? We need you back in Macedonia. We need you in the palace because I want you to instruct my son. I want you to be my son's teacher. Who can name the king's son? When the king says, I want Aristotle to be my son's teacher, who is the king's son? Does anyone know? I'll give you 10 seconds. Yeah, he's a prince, yeah, but what was the name? I'll give you 10 seconds.
Was it Machiavelli?
No. Machiavelli was an Italian and much later. Good, Egon. Good, Megan. Good. Isabella, Nicole. Alexander. So Aristotle goes back home and he teaches Alexander 2 or 3 years. The king dies. Alexander takes over. And Alexander is bequeathed Macedonia, which is very small. But armed with Aristotle's knowledge, Alexander takes over the world. Well, the known world at that time. So we don't know what Aristotle told him, but it worked. Yeah, Alexander became Alexander the Great. Not only did he, after Aristotle's tutelage, not only did Alexander retain Mesopotamia, he expanded the Greek Empire, conquering North Africa, Persia, what today is Iran, and reaching India. He couldn't get through to, he couldn't break the Indian ranks, though. He reaches India, but he can't get through. That was one part of the world he couldn't conquer. He did conquer Egypt, all of northern Africa, and as I said, Iran, what today is Iran, what today is Iraq. According to all military historians, I mean, that's all I've heard. Yeah, Alexander was the greatest general who ever lived. Okay, so let's take a break and we'll go over, we'll start going over Aristotle's Ethics. I'll see you at 1:20. That'll give you 18 minutes.